one last big fucking tour, do you know who you're bringing with you? You bringing like your favorite people with you?
It's just me and the opener. Am I supposed to bring people?
I do.
I know you do.
I
know
that.
you're desperate for affection.
Hey guys, the Tops Off World Tour is coming to an end in 2024, and then, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, I will be taking a long break from touring, but not before Bakersfield, Reno, San Francisco, Stockton. I will see you guys on the road. Tops Off World Tour. Enjoy the podcast. I'm obsessed with unrealized art. Like the amount of stuff that comes out of people, and then when people pass, everyone's like Sean McCowan just died from the Pogues.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until he passed that I started getting really into the Pogues again. And then all of a sudden I'm like, God damn it, why does that happen that way? Especially like when my dad passes, I'm sure I'll go through and be like, find all the cool shit and be like, why wasn't it cool when he was, But you good, Pete?
That unrealized art, you mean
like
or because there's actually I don't know if this is what you mean, but in Baltimore, one of the great museums is a museum there that is all people that were just people, they weren't artists. They were making art, and no one ever paid attention to them. And they put all this stuff in there.
It's art is, I never understood art. I still don't understand art, but I really realized how much I didn't understand it when NFTs came out.
I really don't fucking get that bullshit. Fuck them. Kiss my dick. Stop it. It's like that fucking Bitcoin shit. It's fuck you. You can't make shit up. That's why.
It really does. I remember them explaining NFTs to me. There's this company, and they're like, we can make you millions of dollars. People are going to own you saying I'm the machine. And I'm like, wait, how does that work?
Yeah, really, how does it work? And why does it work?
Yeah, and then the guy's like, oh, it's like art, How does people know that Basquiat was a great artist? It's because someone paid for it. He's like, so as soon as someone pays for it, it becomes great art. I was like, that doesn't track to me.
No, and there's been a lot of dog shit art they paid for.
Yeah. And what's crazy is I'm obsessed. I just listened to this podcast about this. He was a Dutch art collector who turned to the Nazis and then basically used it to his benefit to collect all the art all throughout like Holland and all that, and collected it all, and then just amassed a fortune. And then they were like, and I just kept going like, but how does who are you preying on in that? Are you preying off the rich in that? Like, because only rich people buy art, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
like art is at its best when the masses appreciate it and they pay for it. So when art's cheap and everyone buys it, that's when it's good art. But then at a threshold, it becomes too cheap, and people are like, it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah. But it always starts cheap.
Yeah.
So there are these people who actually kind of go around. I mean, I've and anything that I've there was something I saw. I forget what it was in way back when I was in France. There was this, and I tracked this artist and everything, and then I went back to the gallery, and the guy kind of like disappeared. You don't, and it was
good artists have those personalities.
Yes, they do. Well, I mean, if you ever really, if you look at the art of like Van Gogh was completely fucked.
Yeah,
just fucked. They never bought it. They didn't buy his shit. They thought he was and if you were ever. I was in Holland, and if you were ever profoundly depressed, there's the Van Gogh Museum.
I've been to the Van Gogh Museum.
Yeah, and I was there. They had an exhibition of like his art, and then Theo's letters. His brothers sent him these letters to kind of, keep going. It'd be like, you're going to make it. As many of us comics have those people. Yeah. No, really, that's going to be a great 7 minutes. And, and it's the most profoundly, by the end of it, I've never felt better. It was like having lithium or something. It was so, him and his brother, it was so depressing.
Yeah.
What they went through, what his brother had to go through, and then it was suicide. At the end, it was like he killed, he's dead.
Yeah.
So it's fuck. It's
does this not to get too depressing?
Yeah, let's do it. I want them to turn this thing on, and within 3 minutes they go, "What the fuck was Bert thinking?"
Did you think? Because you toured with one of the best comedians of our generation, Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
And I say this, I found Mitch brilliant alive, and I think I'm dealing with this now with like drinking less, trying to be healthier, trying to lose weight. But there was a part of me that I'm always been attached to the tragic artist who passes early, Greg Giraldo, Patrice O'Neill. They're such legends. And what's your perception of his status got cemented so much higher once he passed, or because he had a heroin addiction, he became that much more precious?
Well, you got to realize, he said, the quote was, he was the kind of, I want to, die young kind of thing, which is, well, that's really not an aspiration. And, I didn't know this when I was working with, I did know, I think part of the tragedy was just imagine this. They called Dave Attell and me in Mitch up. Now, you got to realize this is like the first major tour.
This is for anyone listening who's a comedy fan, this is the sapling that created where we're at today.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, it was the biggest thing in comedy. It was the hottest tour. It was the first really theater tour with 3 headliners who were established names, and it was 3 legends. I mean, legends. And it was Comedy Central put it together, correct?
Yeah.
I'm dying to know the fucking back end numbers on this goddamn tour, but but
we got fucked. I can assure you.
That's all I've been saying today. I was like, knowing what they could make today if they toured,
right, versus
the way theaters worked back then.
Yeah, no, it was phenomenal to do what we were doing, but it was, Mitch. They called Dave and I up, and it was interesting because at the time Dave and I were working, we were kind of the faces of Comedy Central, and we knew each other pretty well. And we were doing stuff together as kind of interstitial stuff.
Yeah.
And on Fridays when they didn't know what else, let's put together 35 clips.
Yeah.
And so they called us and said, I knew that Mitch had just come. Dave and I knew Mitch just had come out of the hospital and had a problem with the addiction, and it was kind of had to be dealt with, and then was in rehab for a bit. Was
this when his leg got hurt?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a kind way to put it. I didn't want to say, I mean, so that was what was going on, and they tell Dave and I, you're going to tour with Mitch Hedberg, and both David and I said, do you realize we're the last 2 people who should be? He doesn't need to be around us. We do these things, and but we're not shooting up. But we're pretty much game for everything. I mean, we'll have like 19 vodkas.
Yeah.
I mean, there was stuff that happened in terms of drink. I mean, in terms of us just being blotto. We saw that coming.
Yeah.
David and I saw it out there, and we're going, you can't have us be in charge of him. First off, that's crazy. You fucking idiots. Second off, why are you doing this? Why are you sending him out?
Yeah.
You don't do this. And it was that classic bullshit of if we send him out, this would be really good for him. No. How do I know that that's not going to work?
It never has turned out good. Like,
no.
It takes you cannot fix it on the road. You cannot fix it on the road. I learned that the hard way. When we were doing Fully Loaded, I was 275 pounds. We would wake up partying. I had every enabling best friend with me. And I had no one's going to say no because I need to make sure the show goes on. They're just trying to say yes in the softest way. And I had to take 7 weeks off to kind of get my life together, but you have to take time off.
Well, it was amazing because I didn't really know you. I knew you, but I did not know you. And I just thought, and it was stuff that was, that I saw, it was like, and my brain was, because I always am like, he can't be doing all this. Because everybody's saying, well, tomorrow, I said, and my brain is, I'm not responding to that. I'm not even asking the group about it. I'm just going, he can't possibly be doing that, And
last night, Stanhope said to me, Stanhope was with me, and he goes, I watched them say this about me, but I have to ask it. How the fuck are you doing this? He was like, aren't you burnt out? And I was like, yeah, I'm burnt out. You're like, that's part of the thing. But I have put some parameters on my lifestyle a tad bit because I'm in love. I'm in love with the tragic hero. I'm in love with that. I don't know. It's like one of the coolest things I ever heard about. I think I was talking to maybe Kathleen. She was talking about you and her having whiskeys after a show.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it. Don't lose it. Like I love it. The playwright smoking a cigarette and having a whiskey writing a play in a fucking bar at 9 o'clock at night or at 7 o'clock at night in Hell's Kitchen is like sexy to me. It's always been, and it's why I'm such a fan of guys like Hedberg and and Patrice and all them. And then they die and you go, fuck, I wish they were here.
Yeah. It's really just as a friend.
Yeah.
It's nice to be enamored with the tragic hero. You just can't get wrapped up in their shit.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is, I get it, but it's also, when it's also tough. And I don't know if you experienced this. They call me and tell me that Mitch has passed. He dies, and I go, and my brain immediately goes, I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
Greg dies, I'm not shocked at all. And that kind of takes the tragedy out of the tragic hero because I always feel like the tragic hero is someone who kind of just, accidentally steps in shit while they're kind of wandering toward the shit. Not the full bore. I mean, because with Greg, it was really, first off, you got to realize I'd worked with him, I had no clue until, none, because every time I sent him, I got all of if I couldn't do a gig, I sent Greg. I would say, if I can't do a gig, get Greg Giraldo. He's great. And Greg did like 5 gigs that I couldn't take and never, no problems, no nothing. So I don't, we did Root of All Evil, there on time, no problems, nothing, Zippo. The only time I even noticed and didn't know what was going on was I knew something was up the last day, but I did not know how bad the problem was when me and John Bowman, who is a very funny comic who I worked with for a long time. He'd been a writer on the show, and Greg sat down. We were sitting after the show's done. We're finished. The season is done. We arrived back at the hotel we're all staying at. Greg joins us, and he had been, dry, and it seemed, and it certainly had been dry. And then we were drinking, margaritas, and he sits down and has a margarita, and then my brain starts to click. I knew a little bit, but not. I'm like, okay. So then he has another one, and then one of the guys comes over. It's the guy, like the Mitch had the guys come over.
Yeah.
The guys that in each town that they hooked up with. So the LA guy, and he it whispers, and then the next thing you know, Greg said, "Well, I got to go," and then it turns out he was gone, 3 days, gone, disappeared.
Yeah,
and that's something. See, there's nothing. There's no tragic hero to that. That's just dumb. We're in a profession. I think it's just hard to be a tragic hero and this was a great discovery for me when I first, because I didnn't really start doing it until I was 40. I was going, what could be the problem? I could start drinking right after the show at 10. I could drink till 6 or pot, do whatever the fuck, whatever, and be done at 6 in the morning and have 12 hours to rack time before I have to fucking,
Yeah.
And then and get up at 6 and then I don't have to be on stage till 9. How tough is this fucking job? you got to really kind of want to have a problem in a job that it's an enabler gig. I mean, that's partly what you've been through. I've been through it. Your friends kind of go, but you're all wound up afterwards.
And you don't ever want that. You don't want to change in front of them. So when they're like, hey, we're going to eat mushrooms and go tubing, you're like, all right.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to change. It's like, it's weird. It's like, well, one of my best friends is Rogan, and he's always like, you got to get in shape. You got to lose weight. You got to quit drinking. But even still, when I see him, he'll be like, let's get a drink. Because he's like, you look good. You look like you got it together. Let's get back after it. Yeah. And you're always like, okay.
Yeah, but really?
Yeah.
Because you're celebrating getting over it.
Yeah. I was with stand-up last night. I'm like, do I drink tonight? Do I party? And then it just turned out that our hours didn't match up, meaning like he opened the show. Stanhope he opened the show as the mayor of Worcester, did not tell them, and then went on this rant about killing a child at a DUI and how he's got to overcome that thanks to Sober October. And I mean, it was fucking so funny. But then I had to go on stage, and when I got off, it was already the end of the night, and I hadn't drank, so I was on stage, and so I didn't drink last night. But it's those times where you see
you were in Worcester last night.
I was in Worcester last night. Yeah.
And he opened. Wow.
He walked in. He said, "Don't tell him it's Doug Stanhope. Say I'm the mayor, Joe Perry, and I'm going to just open and give you the keys to the city." And he was like, guys, today, officially, December 7th, is National BertKreischer Day. He's like, Pearl Harbor's had its run for too long. We need to get over that horrible stain. He was fucking epic, but he quit drinking for like 4 months.
Did he?
Yeah, he quit drinking for a big stretch because he was like, I think all of us run into it where you're like, I got to make sure that I can. For me, it's like I want to make sure I can keep drinking. So like if I take these breaks, then I can enjoy my life. When you didn't, how old were you when you started the Daily Show? Shout out to our favorite sponsor, True Classic, for making us fellas look good no matter how we move. Valentine's Day date? No problem. Dress for success with True Classic button-ups and chino pants that stretch to make you look good. All their shirts are made to accentuate the places that the eye goes first. Tighter in the arms and chest, but leaves the perfect amount of room in your midsection. The best part is that True Classic sells premium products at an affordable price. You can get their best-selling t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, and more in 3, 6, and 9 packs. I'm telling you, these True Classic shirts fit so good around your arms. Everyone tells me my arms look jacked, and they are not jacked. And everyone tells me I'm losing weight. I have lost weight, but I am still pretty fat. But with a True Classic shirt on, I look lean. It hangs perfectly over my gut. So if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now with my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/Bertcast and save up to 25% off your first order. That's trueclassic.com/Bertcast to save up to 25% off your first order. No matter how you move, make 2024 your most comfortable year yet with True Classic. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best prices guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped up for all the fun you'll have. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. I say that you hear that and you don't realize that's how quick it takes. Isla and I got tickets for Metallica, 2 taps, and we thought we did it wrong. It happened so fast. We had to have Leanne check our work. I will tell you right now, my boy Joe Coy is at the Forum February 16th. Plan yourself an event. Get a group text with all your friends. First of all, take all the guesswork out of buying the tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BertCast for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BERTCAST for $20 off and go see Joe Coy at the Forum. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, how old were you when you started the Daily Show?
97, 96. was.
It was 90. It had to be after 97 because I remember seeing you live with Craig Kilborn.
Yeah. So
Dimitri Martin was the PA.
Yeah.
He was working, and he got me in the front row, and I made a huge faux pas. I don't know your relationship with Craig Kilborn, but I did not realize who he was. I didn't realize, like, he was combing his hair in front of a mirror, and I thought that was a bit, and I couldn't stop fucking laughing.
Yeah, well, rightfully so.
And
because that was when he was funny, was when he wasn't funny.
Wait, exactly.
Yeah.
He was so funny not being funny, and he kept looking at me like, what are you laughing at? And I thought it was the bit, and then you went on and fucking destroyed. And this is like, I don't think there's going to be a frame of reference of respect for just how uncaged you were allowed to be on that show at a time when everything else seemed caged. It felt to me like no one read your script. Like they said, you got 5 minutes, whatever you want to do, and you would just go balls to the wall. And I would argue you made that show fucking hilarious. Craig Kilborn was awesome. He was awesome. Jon Stewart came in. I think it gave it such a brand new perspective.
Yeah, he did.
It was, what was the difference between the transition between John and Craig in your opinion?
Well, Craig was just, you wrote for Craig.
Yeah.
So the idea was, the whole idea in part was you get the good-looking guy to sit at the desk. So they got Kilborn, who was kind of like, was doing the sports stuff. He was on ESPN, and they brought him over, and he didn't know where the jokes were. Okay, didn't know. And you kind of go, and at first and it's fine, okay, and it was always kind of astonishing to watch because they were really well written. I mean, it was
a brilliantly written show.
Brilliantly written show. So he, in a sense, it's like a score. So he's kind of tone deaf. So he's hitting it just a touch off, but he's still getting the laugh.
Yeah.
And he was, and he was, full of himself, which he really was full of himself.
Yeah.
And and then I don't know why what he was doing leaving the show.
That was beyond me.
What, are you kidding me? You're on a show that's starting to break through, and then John really did. And John, part of it was John had his own show, and so had learned a ton from that, and then and had a lot of power in this show, and it would have been interesting. I don't know what it would happen. It was really awful. Initially they kept Kilborn and let Liz Winstead, who created the show, they let her go. I mean, it was like, are you guys kidding?
Yeah.
The creator gets thrown out, and he's there just by the grace of God. And then, so when John shows up, he becomes, over the course of the year, he really starts, what made the show great was he micromanaged. And I'm sure, and I'm sure he might disagree with me, but but I'd argue with him, and he did, and it's what made it really a good show. But it became tougher for me to write, it partly because the producers he brought in were pricks in terms of my stuff. So
it was such a. I mean, it was like. I mean, you're the longest running Daily Show correspondent.
Yeah.
You've been with absolutely everyone. But what was brilliant about it is it really gave you the platform to be you on stage.
Yep.
Your specials at that time, and I there's only been a couple people who I have to give them their flowers that were able to catch lightning in a bottle like you do and then take it to stage. And Andrew Schultz is one of them. He's so talented. He did the Turn Your Phone Sideways. And those rants he did were so Lewis-esque in a way. And then he catapulted it, stopped doing it, catapulted it, and brought it to the stage. And you did that. And it was, your specials were like popcorn ready. Like, it was like when your specials would come on, you'd be like, hold on. We got it ready. I need a notebook. I need a cup of coffee. I'm going to get a bottle of whiskey, some popcorn. I mean, just fucking epic.
Thank you.
And your work ethic was insane. Like, your work ethic was like just fucking, it's like you really loved stand-up and it wasn't your initial thing. You really wanted to be a playwright.
Yeah. I
fucking love that. What's your favorite play?
My favorite play?
Of all plays. Like, I came to plays late in life. When I saw, what's the David Mamet one where they're in Hollywood?
Either
Kevin Spacey was in it.
Christ, fuck.
It's not. It's where they're like.
That's always a good expression. Christ, fuck. I know, and I can't think of the name of it.
It's but they're talking like, "Come on, baby," or where they're like, they got little short hands.
It's a 3-hander actually, as a play, and I initially
they made it into a movie.
And I initially thought it's Sexual Perversity in Chicago. Duck Variations. I'm going through all of his plays, and I can't remember.
Who were your favorite play? Well, what was one of the first plays you saw where you're like, "Oh, that's my shit"?
I saw. The earliest was in a play that wasn't that great, but we went to Broadway, and I went. My father started taking me to plays.
Really?
When I was a kid, he said, "You want to go?" And I went. And then once I went, I was like hooked. So it didn't. Anything up there to me was like, I can't believe these people are up there doing this, and that everybody in the room, because what makes it different from stand-up in a sense is we're like that. We're like conductors, where it's a train. Is Carlin so put it so well? We're the guys. We're driving the bus.
Yeah.
Okay. But a play is they're in there. That group of people is creating a reality with the group of people watching. You go. It's like a drug.
It's so underappreciated these days because I've been to plays since, and I don't think any playwright ever thought they'd connect with my sensibility. But man, I get taken away. My mouth is wide open, and I'm just sitting. I mean, I'm pretty hacky in what we've seen because I have daughters. So like, Wicked, Book of Mormon, Beetlejuice fucked me up. I ate edibles before it. And have you seen Beetlejuice?
No.
He starts off by going, I just want to give everyone a heads up. It's Beetlejuice. You're all going to die. And no one will remember you. And I'm like, this is the thing I take edibles to forget about. And I had a panic attack, and my daughters start crying, laughing because they know me. And I ate a whole bag of Skittles. I was like, oh. But those first plays I ever saw in life, like in New York, I just was so overwhelmed by so much of it. The nuance of how other characters were doing other things. And I was always amazed that anyone could remember that much shit and not fuck up.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary.
And when you see an actress or an actor who can really fill a room, like it was the Kristen Chenoweth? Chenoweth? I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, no one does that. No, like, Idina Menzel, like, you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's kind of astonishing when they hit it. And that they're doing something as hard as we work, it's nothing compared to what they're 8 shows, and it's 2, sometimes twice in a day, and it's, you're there for 5 hours with a whole bunch of other people, and it is, and I like to call theater as kind of an outpatient clinic. Yeah. So you're basically these people. If it weren't for theater, they'd be in a hospital somewhere. So instead, we as a group are taking care of them because they're really good at doing this one thing, and they can do it well, and they can play that character well. So it's so it's rough in that. When it comes to the plays that hooked me I got just hooked on it, and then I became fascinated with it, and it was like, I mean, you can't beat a Death of a Salesman. It's unbelievable. It's fucking unbelievable. And when somebody writes the musical, I'd be forced to kill them because it will come eventually. They do that with everything. But Death of a Salesman, Streetcar Named Desire. You kind of go through these things, and then I've seen them with like. with also, with a variety of actors doing it. And each time it's different because of the actors doing it. It's really kind of a remarkable, and I was hooked on it. From the very beginning, my father was seeing, he was going to shows with my mother, he was going to shows with me, he was probably seeing 20 plays a year. He was like...
Wait, what were your parents like?
My mother was really unbelievably, her sarcasm was withering.
Really?
Oh, wither. I mean, like, you kids will never amount to anything. I just told one of my best friends, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but the way things are going, you're never going to amount to anything.
Were they born in New York?
They were born in New York, but then moved. This will tell you how angry they were. They moved to Maryland because they didn't want to deal, because, it's Jewish New York family, ton of relatives. They all arrived there. They all kind of, but my parents just said, we're out of here. We're not dealing with this bullshit. And they moved out.
Really?
And they moved to Maryland, and first to D.C. and then to Maryland. And my mother, the way in which I could, the best way to describe my mother's stuff, she also kept saying, if you think, because this is like that, we're in the late 60s and we're yelling and screaming about stuff, and my mother goes, if you think you're going to change anything, you're out of your fucking minds. Okay? Here's what's going to happen. It's going to be the same.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. So get over it. Get over yourselves.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And
were they born in the States?
No, but yes, they were.
Okay.
But they were
I'm
first
trying to
generation.
do the math. Your dad probably was 20 during World War II?
He was a little older than that, and he was had come out of college, and he was a mechanical engineer, so he went into the Navy Department designing stuff.
Yeah.
So he was designing things at that point in time and working as a mechanical engineer. So he did not have to go over. The
older I get, the more fascinated I am with history.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally turning into an old man. I watched a documentary on the Gulag last night. Like I just get high and sit in my bunk and sit in my bed and just watch documentaries on shit no one gives a fuck about. That like and don't come up good in conversation. I watched a 17-part documentary on Hitler. Can't bring that up in casually.
Oh yes, you can.
His dad was a beekeeper, right?
Yeah, but you could call. I can tell you this: we could call Kathleen Madigan now, and you could say that you saw this documentary, and the first thing she'll go, "Where'd you find it?" Because she's seen everything.
Yeah.
If there's a new one, and every so often when I see something on Netflix, I'll send her a thing saying, this just came out. Nope, saw it. I mean, she's like...
Oh, my daughters are livid with me because they came out with World War II in color, and I was like, I got to see this.
Oh, yeah,
and they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
I thought you were cool, Dad. And I'm like, this is in color. Like, we've only seen black and white.
I remember when that came out. But it's really... It's incredible what the Hitler thing is. I mean, being born and raised Jewish, you watch so much. You already seen so much of it by the time they've already. By the time I'm 15, I'm kind of over Hitler. It's it's not. It isn't like, oh boy, those were good times. So you kind of get over it and you move on pretty
just
quick.
Watch a documentary on the Rothschilds. I'm like, I have to measure my intelligence versus the knowledge I get given because I'm not smart enough to really process what things mean. I said in an Instagram live today, someone's like, do you read? And I was like, I should have never got reading glasses. I think God was telling me at a certain point, you're as smart as you need to be. Just stop right there. Use everything you just did. Do that for the rest of your life. Do not learn new stuff. Because I'm at the intelligence level where I definitely probably could have gotten swept up into storming the Capitol. I would have been like, what? She's in there? Let's get her. But I find it fascinating because my dad was not brought up around art. It was sports. And that was so ingrained in so many men have changed so drastically different that your dad brought you up around art is so fucking fascinating.
Well, that was the thing. That was his thing. And and they were smart. I mean, my father was brilliant when it came to theater. I mean, we went and saw a play. Chris Durang is a writer. I don't know if you'd love it. His stuff's great. He's Chris Durang.
Okay.
Durang, and he's written some stuff that's just very, very funny. And I happened to go he was at theater school when I was there. He was a couple of years ahead, but he wrote just Sister Mary Ignatius and a couple of others that are just terrific. And but we went and saw a play of his at Arena Stage in Washington. My father and I were sitting in the back, and the play ends. And
Wooly Bully. No. Is that the Wooly Bully? Is the fucking David Mamet play? No, yeah. Wooly Bully? Yeah, Wooly Bully was the one that I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
way back. Oh, yeah. I was okay. Sorry, I just was
no problem.
I was going holy moly in my head.
Yeah.
So you were saying Durang.
So Durang it wrote this play, and my father and of course I can't remember it because you said Wooly Bully, and as soon as a word comes in my head, everything is blocked for an hour and a half. So I'll call you next week,
please,
and get you the name. But we're sitting in the back. I go, but the first act ends. I said, "What'd you think?" He goes, "It's really good." He said, and then he went, and now he's stuck. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Second act's going to be exactly the same as the first act with just a little few. It's going to be the same." I said, "What? Watch." I was like, and he wasn't arrogant about it. It was kind of like just that's what's going to. And we came back for the second act, and it was the same act.
Really?
In a lot, I mean, basically, he nailed it. His criticism was dead on.
God dang! Do you feel like there was any unrealized genius with your dad?
Oh, there was. He realized it because he. I mean, this is a great story. I tell it a lot, but he ends up. He becomes this design. He does design. He designs sea mines. Sea mines, you've studied World War II,
of course.
With those spiky balls that they put in the water.
For real?
And so that's what his design thing was. And he basically, and he tried to get out of dealing with weapons, but because he was, I know, it's not true, Luce. Yes, it's true. He was, he couldn't, at the time frame he was trying to get out of work, he was Jewish, so there was a certain amount of anti-Semitism that was there. But also he was, we were moving from an economy that had it was making all sorts of, refrigerators and everything else, and we were just becoming a weapons maker. So they didn't want him at any of these companies because they were all shifting over.
I have to pause. I'm still shocked that people question anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I know.
It really is profound to me, and I think sometimes people need to be aware of just the little encroachments that it has in our society, that it always shows up. And I think in stand-up you just have such a plethora of Jewish friends that at least will keep you honest with what they're seeing. Yeah. Like Gary Goldman's one of my favorite human beings in the world, and Gary, my entire friendship with him for 25 years, has always been very astute at pointing out things that I wouldn't have picked up on that he picks up on. Yeah. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. But I think there's so many people that they do that with black people. They go, there's no racism. And you're like, oh my God, it's so institutionalized that you're out of your fucking mind if you don't see it. And it's insane to me, but I apologize. But
no.
So the fact that your dad couldn't get a job designing refrigerators because he's Jewish makes total fucking sense to me. People talked wild crazy until I was a child. I'm being serious. And this is hard for my daughters to understand, is that there are phrases that were very casual my entire up to probably we had a religion teacher. We had a guy named Andrew Wall. I'm saying his name because he did not get the credit he deserved at being the most patient Jewish person in the fucking world. He went to an all-boys Catholic high school with us. And our teacher would point to him and go, Andrew's people killed our God. They killed Jesus. That's Andrew's fault. And this poor Andrew Wall just sat there like, cool, man. Cool. I couldn't get into Tampa Prep, and now I got to deal with this shit. I mean, but it was I mean, it was, and that was casual.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's hard for kids to realize how bad it was in my generation, but for your dad's generation, it was outright.
Yeah, it was outright, and, but what was funny was like and this is really just my grandfather was a jeweler. He's working the one he works closest with is a Catholic family.
Yeah.
So my grandfather makes the jewelry, they sell it. My father's best friend was Catholic, so there's always been that connection.
Yeah,
it was a Jew and a Catholic make a Protestant is what I used to think.
By the way, my favorite people to follow on Instagram are Jewish jewelers. My favorite, I'm DMing with two of them right now, Moshe and this other guy Moses, I think. And
you are kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Well, it's really. I think you should open with it.
These guys are so good. I think.
Wow,
they're my favorite. There's Maza or Mazel is what they say when they close a deal.
Yeah, Mazel.
Yeah. And but it's they're so fun. They work. I'm gonna go visit they sell Rolexes and they refurbish Rolexes on like 44th Street, and they work in like a huge mall.
Yeah. And
people come in with Rolexes and they're trying to flip them, and they're so much fun to watch. I watched this one guy's every video he's ever done, and it's fascinating because I'm obsessed with them.
That is.
I get
funny.
in the sub. I'm curious. I'll ask you later. I'm curious what you find online, but that's one of my favorite is Jewish jewelers right now.
Jewish jewelers. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I'm having my grandfather being a jeweler. It's not something I would, but it was always kind of fascinating. And then I ended up later on going down and meeting the family and spending, because I was way young, and it was great. And they had this incredible relationship. And but my dad got screwed out of the, he couldn't get out of it, and he stayed with it. And he stayed with it because it was a defensive weapon. So as far as he was concerned, fine. You're protecting your harbor. This is fine. So we go into war with Vietnam. My mother says it's bullshit. She's, women strike for peace. She's involved in, she's anti-war from Jump Street. My father says, my father's arguing with her. Meanwhile, we're just watching Walter Cronkite and having massive arguments and about it. And, they are. And so my father says, no, we don't, this is, the reason we're there is because of the Geneva Accords, and you haven't read the Geneva Accords. I'm going to read the Geneva Accords, and it was based on this thing called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which was based on the Geneva Accords.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you'll see the documentary soon.
I know. I haven't gotten to Vietnam yet.
You'll get there.
I'm saving Korea for when I turn 55.
Pork Chop Hill, great movie, by the way. And it is. So
is that about the Mormon who doesn't want to pick up guns?
No, this is earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is, and it's in color, so you'll enjoy it. So my father reads the thing, and reads the whole Geneva Accords, because they keep pointing at this thing. Nobody read nobody.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Media had to be so fucking monoscopic at the time, because you just got Walter Cronkite.
Walter Cronkite, Huntley Brinkley. We had solid people really delivering the news. And there was a trust factor which had been lost. Is this before they were advertising on news shows? No, they'd begun to. They were advertising, and so my father reads this. It's like 56 pages. And I looked at it. You sit there and you lose. You read like 2 paragraphs. He is out of his fucking mind. And he finishes it, and he said, "There's absolutely no legitimate reason. There's no legal reason I read in here. This is bullshit, and we shouldn't be in war there. This is what we're doing is, as far as I'm concerned, immoral." So now my father it gets on it. Then we during the all of going through the war, we now mine Haiphong Harbor. It's a major moment in time. So we're mining them. We're using that weapon as an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
And my father makes the decision at that point he's done. He won't.
Really?
He can't. He can't, in all good conscience, continue to do this if this is what they're going to use his weapons for. That is not what he got into this for. And he's in his early 60s. And he goes, and I'm finishing college, so that we're there. But my brother's just in like his second year, and so he's retiring. He says, "I'm out of here." Really? So now he's leaving before he's going to get a full
pension.
He's had a great great health insurance. It's the same health insurance that senators and congressmen.
For real?
Yeah, for real. Because because I don't know if it's because during the war, I have no idea, but it was really remarkable. And so, but he says, "I'm done." And they agree. My mother agrees, and then he goes to work. He apprentices himself to a guy who makes stained glass, and then he starts making stained glass. And so, and then he's making, and he's doing it for not for for a little money here and there, but not a lot. And my friends are giving him like $125 to make a comedy tragedy mask. Thing that's mass, and I'm going. I've got a Victorian a mirror that he made, which is this. All the outside, and there's a mirror, and then this incredible stuff around it. And so he did a ton of this. He made 5 really huge pieces, big pieces, and he did it. And then while he was doing that, so he's in his 60s. By the time he's hitting late 60s, he starts to take art lessons, and then starts painting and paints until he's 83. So it was about, I'd say it was 18 years of painting. It's pretty remarkable. So it's also,
you got great genes.
Yeah, well, they're wasted on me. But it was really remarkable. Because it's the whole thing of you can't, it was like examples of people who sacrifice. I said, what my father did was, to have that role model is incredible.
Yeah.
Because it's remarkable he did it, and then he was doing, I believe, what he always wanted to do. I think he really, design and painting are not that far apart.
Yeah.
And so he and a lot of his stuff is almost design oriented. It's like he called himself a hard-edged abstractionist, and it wasn't until he would have these paintings. I'd go, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. They were like, holy fuck, and I didn't quite get it, and he rarely did anything that you would see as a piece that was, wow, this is kind of something recognized. He did the Twin Towers, or way before that. way. Kind of. So I've got this painting in my room.
Before they made them?
Yeah.
He's like, that would be cool.
Yeah, really. There was nothing there. And but that was kind of he didn't do a lot of stuff that was recognizable. I've got a painting of a kind of a house with different colors, but it's still all very much about being abstract figures. And then he did he brought me down once, and he did a painting that's it's a Lico light, 2 Licos. One is on a set of ascending size breasts, and then there's an and then there's another light and on it, and Lico, and it's ascending size asses. So it's tits and ass, and at the bottom it just says showbiz.
I like that one.
That was a great one.
I bet.
It's a great painting.
Where did you go to college? If I asked you how many subscriptions you have, would you be able to list them and how much you're paying for them? If you asked me that question before I started using Rocket Money, I would have said, oh, yeah, of course. But let me tell you something. I would have been so wrong. I cannot believe how many I had and all the money I was wasting specifically on fitness apps. I have downloaded every fitness app there is and paid the $24 for the year. It's ridiculous. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels all your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with a tap. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped it save its members an average of $720 a year with over 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/Bertcast. That's rocketmoney.com/Bertcast. rocketmoney.com/Bertcast. Get in on the UFC 298 action with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. New customers who deposit $5 or more can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 back in a bonus bet. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BertCast. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 if your first bet loses, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code BertCast. The crown is yours. Where did you go to college?
I went to UNC. I was
Really?
at Maryland for a year and UNC for 4
What was college like at UNC? I feel like it would be good old boy.
No, it was a great time to go there because it was transitioning from being good old boy to so I get there. This is 67, and I get there and they've got the Kappa Alphas, I believe, or Kappa KAs. They have it's like Confederate Day, so they're marching down.
Robert E. Lee was a KA. Yeah, like I had a bunch of friends who were KAs.
Is that right?
It was,
that's perfect.
Robert E. Lee was, I think, one of the founding
Well, that
fathers.
Explains it.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So they're marching down the street.
Having said that, I have to say this. My friends were in the predominantly Cuban KA. They were all Cuban with a black dude in it. They dressed in Confederate outfits as Cubans, which I found so fucking hilarious. One of them, I think, worked with you. One of my buddies is like a huge producer in New York. Tony Hernandez, he runs Jack's Media.
Yeah.
He was a KA. He's the most Cuban dude. His dad played highlight.
Where were you in school?
I went to Florida State. KAs at Florida State were all good old boys, but these were all guys that went to the University of Florida, and they were all Ty Rodriguez, Tony Hernandez. They were all Cuban kids at KA.
That's crazy.
It was right as things were changing. I was in Florida State was still a very segregated town at that time. You had FAMU and you had Florida State.
Yeah.
And I think I felt the remnants of that a little bit. It was more north. I could get into the details of racism in Florida and why it happened due to soil temperaments. Because it's based on, I did that on a podcast with Trick Daddy. It didn't go great, and so Florida was a tad bit more
glad
progressive.
I missed that one.
Yeah, well, so that's one of the things you should never learn anything because all of a sudden I'm sitting with Trick Daddy going, well, slavery was really predominantly North Florida because the soil was more tobacco and cotton, and South Florida was more cattle, so they didn't have a use for slavery. And Trick Daddy's like, cool. Are you telling me there wasn't slavery? I was like, never mind. But yeah, so you were saying KA at UNC was the good old
they're
boys.
marching down the street, right? And they're rolling along, and they're on. This is Confederate Day. They're out, and they have like 5 or 6 of them are on horses. They have their own little parade, and they're all dressed in Confederate uniforms. And I literally, it was as close as I've been to a stroke. I mean, I was like, my eyes are going back in my head. Are you fucking, it's so beyond my comprehension that people would do this. And they did it. And then that was within a day and a half of that happening. The backlash and the protest was so strong. It was like, nope, that's gone. Bye. And so a lot of the stuff that had been a part of the whole. That was all. It was goodbye,
Really?
goodbye. Because it was it was always kind of a fairly. I know there'll be people going, well, really, yeah, well, really, it was. And especially in North Carolina in the 50s too, when it was considered like a commie school. It was fairly. There was a fair amount of liberal down there. There was, in terms of the overall general.
I think all college campuses at that time started polarizing themselves from the society or from this town they were in, because it. I mean, I can only imagine, but that's when art really takes into college campuses, and music and drugs, and I think all of them were like that.
Let me kill that.
No, yeah.
Does that? Can you hear that at all?
I can't hear it.
Because I just don't want. It sounds like my genitals are on fire. Cling, cling. Because I've had chips put in. That's
good.
Yeah, you can do that as you get older. I'll tell you about it.
I could use them. Just something to alert them.
So they, so it was all changing when I was there. I mean, the school was on kind of like, that we're not doing this, we're going to do that. We're not doing this, we're going to do that. I got there was a strike. The food workers struck because their pay was like, are you shitting me pay? It was really, they were worried about, you can't even get people up to $15 an hour, which is ludicrous now. And there it was like, is somebody kidding? And so they struck, we all went out and backed them up. And then within 2 weeks, boom, they're back. They're back in. They got their raise. I mean, it was like that constantly for the 4 years I was.
How do you feel being a part of that first generation of change to where you see where college campuses are now, where I don't know if it's the same, but it's the same energy. I feel like the kids want to be a part of something big, and sometimes they're. I mean, I go both ways. I have a daughter in college, so I understand. I hear her, and I understand her feelings about what she would deem as hate speech, or people saying anti-trans stuff, or not using pronouns. But how do you feel when you see where kids are today to where you were when it was really, I don't mean to say it's not really happening, but when you were there and it was changing, and there was probably pushback, but it was from the wrong side of history, easily now.
Yeah. Well, it was, it would have been nice if along the way they had told us what the rest of our lives would be like. That what's going to happen is you're going to do this, and then a lot of you are going to get married, and then you're going to wake up and you're going to be 60 and go, what the fuck happened? I mean, that was really the lesson. I mean, the lesson was it was great to be a part of that. I mean, it's incredible to be a part of something that where you're a part of it.
Yeah.
Where you believe in what you're, we shouldn't have been in that war, and we shouldn't have been doing that. And it was the same thing when I watched. And so what you learned so we go into, we get 9/11 takes place. My brain immediately goes, they're going to use this fucking thing as an excuse to go batshit, just the same way they use the Chinese thing coming in, that the communists are going to take over the whole, all of Asia. Now we're going to deal with this. And sure enough, the next thing I know, we're in Iraq. I'm going, you idiots, you fucking, in the same generation, my generation, fucking, Cheney, my age, fucking leading them into this, you've already watched this scenario, you fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do it again. And that was the thing. It was, I think what is that we were at 50, back, when I went to school, it was like 55%, 60% of us might have been feeling that. And then by the time we got old, within 10 years, it's like we're at 50-50. I think that, I don't know where we're at now, but it was literally, those people had, basically Cheney had, had made their moves. They'd taken their places within that. And I don't know where I don't know enough. And I've been trying to get down there. When the pandemic started, I was trying to work down at Chapel Hill. They've taken everything I've written down there. So all the books, all the plays, everything, and they put them in the library. And I was supposed to start, kids were supposed to come in and use these primary sources. And and learn, basically take a look at what I was doing, and then I would meet with them. But that went the way of the pandemic, and I'm hoping to do it again, shortly. And because I just don't really know what's going on there. I do know that as I was watching this morning that Harvard and the U of Pennsylvania, and I forget what other school that brought in those idiot the folks in charge of the schools in terms of in front of Congress, and how come you're not dealing with anti-Semitism?
Oh, I saw that.
It was appalling.
It's I saw the one Jewish kid getting surrounded by the Palestinian kids, and they were almost like assaulting him. It looked like, and then they said to him, "You have an opportunity to say you stand against anti-Semitism," and I couldn't understand why she didn't just say, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah,
she was like, well,
that and the other one with genocide. What do you think? And she said, well, depending. And the woman went, "There's no depending."
Yeah,
depending on what, schmuck? How do you not stand against genocide? I mean,
I couldn't wrap my head around. I stay out of all of that online because I watch people.
I'm not doing it, it's also. There's not enough. Here's the problem with the online. If you're going to have an argument about that shit, don't fucking. That's how big it is, okay? Yeah. That's how much shit is coming out when you read something on Twitter or the rest of it. And it's that big, and that is not enough to have a fucking argument about it.
Yeah.
Or that, or kids learning their history from TikTok. I don't fucking know if they're learning it or not, but you shouldn't be learning your history from TikTok. That's pretty easy. Huh? Son of a bitch. How dumb is that? I'm gonna look at TikTok and learn about Palestine and Israel. But what planet could you be circling? So that's part of my problem with the kids at this point. But I don't know if that's true because I'm watching TV and there's some old fart telling me that's what the kids are doing. Really? So can you bring a kid on to show me what he's watching on TikTok? You fuck. They don't even show you. They just tell you.
You're right. I stay totally away from all of that because I'm just like, and you people like there was a period that I don't know, I was talking about on podcasts is what I was watching online, and in my comments, this is like right around probably Biden. This is right during the Trump thing, and it was like state your politics. Like that's all anyone wanted, state your politics. And I was like, my dad's a lawyer, and he was very much a contrarian to whatever I said. So anytime I had any opinion, my dad would take the opposite side and prove me wrong. He loved it. Yeah. He still does it. Even when I started diet, which my dad is obsessed with my weight, he'll immediately go, hold on, why can't you have pasta? And I'll be like, God damn, like he just loves. So in a weird way, in my rearing, my dad did two things really well. He created a person who always questions everything. Mm-hmm. I question everything, and I question my opinion consistently. And the one thing my dad did beautifully, and I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, at a very young age, he told me I loved pressure. He's like, you excel when all the chips are on the table. When the bases are loaded, there's 2 outs and the count is full. That's when you raise to the occasion. I don't know if it's true or not, but because he gave me that mentality, I end up loving pressure. I love it. I thrive in it. And I think it's just conditioning. And I wish that I had done that to my daughters. I didn't. I did the other bad stuff my dad did.
But you can't, how do you know, that's a heck of a thing. True. I mean, it's tough to say, and then your kids go, "Fuck you."
Yeah, I
don't need to respond to pressure, you idiot. I don't need to wait till the chips are down. I actually might do it on Tuesday.
Why can't I do it on the first show? Yeah. Why does it have to be the fourth show? Yeah. I want to have a good set off the 4 shows. Yeah. Why do I have to dig myself into a hole?
That is funny. God.
And then would you start writing plays at UNC?
I started writing. Well, and I went in there thinking I was going to I knew I wanted to try theater, but I was taking any other course that would get me the fuck out of it because there was nobody around. I didn't know anybody who was doing this. And so I started writing. Well, I said, I'll try playwriting because I wasn't really much of an actor. I'd had a bit of experience at school with it, but not. I kind of knew, it was like I had to play myself. I knew when I did the acting, it was me.
Yeah.
And then I got there, and I found that I could. I started to take playwriting courses there, and that was it. And then of course somebody comes along and says, "Well, there was a guy named Robert Anderson. He wrote a play called 'I Never Sang for My Father.' Look it up. I don't have time." And which was a fairly kind of important play at the time. He wasn't a Arthur Miller. He wasn't like a Tennessee Williams, but he was in that tier of the second tier that was coming up.
Yeah.
And it's a very good play. And he had come to school there, and I gave him a play of mine to read. And I said, tell me what you think. And he said, I would keep doing it. You've got a talent for it. And so I did.
And then you moved to New York?
No, I didn't want to move to New York at all.
Really?
No, I thought, no, because it was like, I went up there with this, first off, I just went up there and it was like, I'd been at Chapel Hill and I'd had a play that was hugely successful. I had a fellowship down there. I'd written a musical that was my senior year with a friend of mine, and that was the first play ever done. And it was the opening of a theater at GW, and they opened the theater with this play.
Really?
And then also, to my father's credit, here's another one about my dad. So we get a review in the Washington Post by the major reviewer, basically dismissing us in the play. And rightfully so, it was, and my father called him up and said, "Listen, you prick, you don't pound these kids who were aspiring to do this. Nothing about that review is going to help them.
Yeah.
All you were just mean and insufferable."
Yeah.
It was like pretty remarkable to have your father defend you. So I did that, and that got me a fellowship to stay on at Chapel Hill and write. And I wrote this thing that became it was a massive hit, and for the area, and it was all about being in school and at that time, and we took that show, and then we ended up getting a grant from the Arts Council to tour it through a bunch of colleges. And,
wow! And
so that kind of was like, and I was getting, and I knew at the fucking time. Here's a fuck. I'm sitting there where there's 1,200 people are watching this thing at UNC, University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And the play ends, and it happened every night. 1,200 people stand up there.
Wow.
Every night there was a standing ovation, but this was the largest crowd I've seen. And they all stood up, and I turned to my friend and I said, it's never going to get any better than this. This is it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to replicate this. I said, what the fuck am I thinking? He said, this should be when I get the fuck out of this.
Yeah.
I did it. And now let's find something else to do because we've done it. And it was really, that was, so and we then bought a theater out in, the group of us who were working together on this didn't really want to. I felt that everything that I was reading seemed to be that there'd be a decentralization of the arts, which is now what's happened.
Yeah.
But I, because I'm such a seer and can see the future, I was so fucking wrong. I'd read all this stuff. There was all these things about how it was going to happen. It didn't even come fucking close. So I'm wandering out. We'd get a theater in Colorado, which also would be the last place on earth this would occur. It hasn't happened in Colorado. Chicago, Atlanta, all the other places.
Yeah.
Colorado had one, and Denver had a theater, and we had a theater in Colorado Springs. And we bought this, but then we just couldn't, get it to float. We did all sorts of great stuff while I was there.
Yeah.
And did productions, and I wrote like a children's play, and we did a play in the park, and it was great.
those, I mean, I've only been a part of one play, but the process of making a play is so fucking fun.
Yeah.
I mean, being with creative people, because those are those are like the bricklayers of creativity. Like they're the fun, fucking no holds barred, almost like I was in it with a bunch of dudes, but and a couple women helped with it, but the sexual energy, like everything's really free.
Yeah. No, it's and it's also like I've always felt this about it that people get into theater because it replicates a family. So you go in and you get really, I mean, it creates this, it jacks up the emotional thing. You got to really commit to each other. The emotional thing gets really high.
Yeah.
Your commitment to each other is really high, and it's very much like a close-knit family, and then it's over. And what makes it a great family, a better family than your family or any family, is it's finite. So it's like, okay, this has been great. Bye.
Yeah.
I could really love you a lot. Do I want to love you next Thursday? No, because we already had the cast party.
Yeah.
And you remain friends. I mean, you still remain. I mean, there are people I know in theater, and it's the same with comedy. There are people that I know. I will be their friends forever. It's like family. They really are. I mean, some of my close friends, I've got a bunch of close friends who all come out of theater.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I loved about my first TV show. I didn't realize how good I had it. And one of the grips came up to me and he goes, it's never going to get better than this. I said, when? He goes, this is your first little nuclear family, and you're going to have memories of this for the rest of your life, and it's your first thing you've ever done. You're 26. He was like, man, you're going to look back at this and really miss it one day. And I looked back to just, I'm bad with math. I was making $5,000 a week, and I thought I was a millionaire.
Of course.
Because I didn't do the math. I was just like, that's got to be $1 million. And I was having fun. I bought a new car, and it was just everything you wanted it to be. And I think I've always been chasing that in every production I've ever done, is creating this nuclear family of like, and I did it on low levels, like Travel Channel and stuff, but still you travel with this group of people for 10 days straight, for 12 times a year, and you're having 120 days with these people where you're just nonstop.
Well, could you sell my show to the Travel Channel, those fucks?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what they're doing, unless it has a ghost in it. They're fucking...
Boy, is that ever true?
Oh man, that company had such potential, but it just was one of those. That was a brand that I don't think they saw, and their kids doing it better now. Their kids online doing travel vlogs that are so much more interesting and rich that you're like, well, I mean, I follow people that travel around the world on sailboats. And you could never create that content
while making jewelry.
Yeah, while making jewelry. She makes dresses. But yeah, that's what I love about this business, is that finite family that you get.
Well, we did the show out in Vegas that you did, Fully Loaded. That's what that is.
Oh, it entirely is. I'm simply chasing that one thing on all my. On everything I've created is I love connecting, and I love hanging, and I love my favorite part of comics is just being around funny people.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing, and sharing them with my daughters and getting them to see funny people is like, the coolest thing was like Leanne grabbing the girls when you went up on stage, and they're like, you need to watch this. And they're like, wait, who is he? And we're like, you need to watch this. And then I was like, wait, I know his voice. I'm like, I think that's he does voiceover from he's angry. And she's like, oh, that's him?
Yeah, that's.
But so how did the transition into because it's funny, I think a lot of people don't know about your past history as a playwright and just know you as a stand-up.
Yeah. And
think of you as this George Carlin-esque stand-up that owned things that, I mean, your rants are legendary. But how did that, like, what comic did you meet first who was like, you got to get on stage? Or
I started doing stand-up when I was 19, 20.
Really?
But it was really 21. I had finished, my play had been done. I had this summer in Chapel Hill, and I had friends of mine had a band, and there was a place called Cat's Cradle, which still exists there.
Yeah.
And they had, and it was, and they would mainly do, music and stuff. There was nobody doing stand-up. And I had friends who would listen to I had all these stories that I would tell. Yeah. Tell that, you know the thing, yeah. Tell that. And so I would tell it. And then this band, my friends in the band said, you should come in and do stand-up in between. And it was perfect. And this is when people always say, what advice do you have for a new stand-up? And besides do it again. And do it again is, if the first time you do it, you invite as many fucking friends as you have, and you load the room, because no matter, unless you're lucky,
yeah,
even then it's going to be hell. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you might as well, you want people there you're going to drink with, and you're going to have a good time with, and who are going to be supportive of you.
Yeah,
and then you decide if you want to come back or not. So I went in and did it because I knew everybody. I knew everybody in the room. It was like, I'm going to do this. Everybody knew, and the level of terror that I brought to that stage was just staggering. I mean, I have a recording that still sits there that in which there's a minute. And I think it was the second gig, and there was literally a full minute where I said, so, I mean, it's a minute of me trying to start.
Yeah.
And it was, I just didn't get over it. And the thing that saved me the first time was I had this Cocker Spaniel, and he could see that I was dying. He could really see the death. And as a dog will do, he came to rescue me.
He's a legit rescue dog.
He was truly. So he comes on stage, so that kind of, the audience, whoa, and I grab him, and I said, I got something to show you. So, because I got nothing left, okay? Yeah. I've told the story that is funny, but I've destroyed it, right? Because I'm a wreck.
Yeah.
They can't see fear. It's the last thing they want to see is, because that's what they would go up there.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my dog and I put him up like this, and I used to do this thing where I showed that this is how a dog masturbates himself, and I just took his little paws and played with his dick for a while, and they exploded, and I put the dog down and said, "Thank you, thank you very much. We'll be back next week." Actually, just the dog will be back next week. And I thought, wow, and probably that should have led me to become a prop comic. But so I did it, and then I went back, three or four times, and it never got much better. A little bit better. Yeah. I was a little more comfortable. And what was weird is that after the shows we were doing when we would do a play, I would talk to the audience afterwards. Nothing, no problem at all. Nothing.
Yeah.
But that thing of making folks laugh, just it was a thing in my head. And I'd watched a ton of comics, and I was always fascinated. As much as I was fascinated by theater, I was fascinated by stand-ups and what they were doing.
Who were you watching at the time?
Everybody. I mean, it was Ed Sullivan was the hook. So,
okay.
I mean, you can go back for anybody out there. It's worth watching the 7 minutes. I mean, there were people nobody had heard of that I certainly didn't know, but it was Jackie Byrne, Jackie Mason. It was one after the other that were, there was always somebody there. They were always doing 7 minutes. And so I was watching everybody. Bob Newhart and Shelley Berman and Nichols and May. My parents had that album. And I was just kind of fascinated. Mm-hmm. The guys, the person, Phyllis Diller, she's just standing there. And
Bob Newhart was so fucking good.
Man,
I mean, I think people sleep on him. Dimitri Martin was very pivotal in my early comedy days because he was the one that introduced me to being a fan of stand-up. Like, I didn't understand. I knew that I liked it, but I didn't know how rich the art was. And Dimitri would go to the Museum of Television History, and he would watch old stand-ups. And I remember watching Bob Newhart going like, knowing Newhart, the show, and knowing the one where he owned the hotel with his wife.
Which is crazy, which is not nearly as good, but it was still good.
It was still good.
The first one was great, and the second one is good. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But I would think Newhart was that generation that kind of changed stand-up. Newhart, Woody Allen, like they kind of changed.
Shelley Berman, the 3 albums, those were the albums. And also Lenny Bruce had albums.
Oh, yeah, Lenny Bruce was. I discovered Lenny Bruce when I moved to New York, and I just watched the documentary where he just read his court papers.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't funny. Yeah. I was like, I guess I got to get arrested. Huh. But what was, you were watching those and just fucking.
I mean, I was just kind of like, this is funny and this is great. And whenever anybody, and then and then plus the Smother Brothers come on. Oh. I'm still a kid when for all intents and purposes they come on. They've got a whole bunch of stuff that just makes me, and they're bringing on. Plus their writers are phenomenal. I'm sitting there going, well, but I'm not. But I don't think I can do it. I'm just, but I do. So I start, but I kind of. Since I don't want to be a stand-up, I didn't care about getting up there and doing it because I wasn't carrying. It wasn't like as hard as it was, and it was hard. Because there's a personal level. When they don't laugh, it's because you don't like. They don't like me. But it bounced a little off me because I was like, well, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to make $1 million writing plays. You kidding me? So I'm going to show you I know how to type.
Yeah.
And it was really, so I left, I came out of school, I went, and then we had this theater in, I did improv with the group, and I did gigs. They had I could make money going to these, they had these little coffee houses at Fort Carson. They were, and where the soldiers would gather, and because they were testing the volunteer army there. So for me, it was a great time because they brought in everyone that they didn't think would stay in the army to see how they could make people stay.
The best audience ever.
Phenomenal, because they were all stoned, and so I would go in and
it's like the cast of Stripes.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly what it was. And I'm in there, and they're like, "This is great," And I'd come in and just talk for 50 minutes, and I'd have some notes and stuff. But it didn't, and it was a way to make $50, which was real money then.
Yeah,
and so I kind of would do that and. I did it, but I still wasn't, I didn't really I had no feedback. There were no other comics around.
Yeah, it's just you.
It was just me doing it, and my other friends were not interested in it. And then I got to Washington after, we bellied up after a year, and I moved back to D.C., or actually it was before I even went out to Colorado. I'd gone to DC to make money to work with out there, and there was a place called the Brookskeller, and they were looking for a comic, and at that point I had my the stuff that I'd done at the when I first went is the first stories.
Yeah.
So I had like 15 minutes of sex stories, 20 minutes.
Sounds like my act now.
This is my sex life, and I always thought it was funny. And then I had a kind of 15 minutes of stuff, but not really. And then I had nothing, and I had to do 3 shows a night, and every other week, and there was nobody doing stand up in Washington. There was no clubs, and they wanted somebody to work in between folk singers. Look them up. So I was doing folks, was working with these folk singers. And then there was another guy, Ron Moranian, and he was doing, he would work the weeks it was the two of us would work alternate weeks.
Holy shit. Folk singers, that must have been good crowds too.
They were good.
It's people wanting it.
But I was terrible. I mean, really, the first would go, but they never let, and I was just kind of waiting to see if they'd fire me. And then afterwards, there was a friend of mine who was working with bands down there, and he was way talented, but he also was kind of like flipping out about, I'm going to do this? Really?
Yeah.
They're going to pay me to be a drummer? So we would just get hammered afterwards. We'd be like, we suck. We really suck. We were getting away with murder. We didn't, we kind of didn't enjoy, we enjoyed what we had kind of, but not, we just didn't feel like we were really ready to be able, I was not going to do it. And he wasn't sure. And so we would, but it was really, and I kept doing it on and off.
God, that's fascinating.
On and off. And I'd go on stage with papers because I didn't care. I didn't give a shit. Because what are you going to do? I'm not. And I did a lot of shows, especially when I got to New York and when I was at drama school. I would, they had a cabaret there. I would go in, and when they didn't have somebody to work, they would have me come in, and I'd get 6 shows.
Wow.
And then I might bring somebody in to do a little something else, but mostly I'd get up on stage and just.
Did you ever tether with the stand-up scene that started blossoming, like the Sign? I guess. Now, he must have been the 80s, but never.
The only time when I finally, the folks, Rick Newman at Catch, a rising star, saw me working at this place that we had in New York, and I started to I introed every show. So all of a sudden, I started to get an idea of how to do it, because the way in which really you kind of learn, a lot of people learn is you start as you're the host, you're the MC. So I was MCing all these shows. So I became much more comfortable on stage. And then I had all these jokes that were kind of about, about theater, and the fact that, like, the jokes were like, if you could, if you could tell me, if anybody here knows, because we'd have like 20 people in the audience, and we were trying to build a crowd. And I'd say, if anybody knows anybody on the New York Times that I should blow, I will blow them. Whatever it takes, I'm going to blow them. Yeah. Or if you could, there was a thing that came out in the Post about a severed head found in a basement. And severed head found, I forget, it was topless. Something was headless, topless, some shit. But I thought, fuck. And so for like 3 weeks, all I did was this joke about if somebody could get me a head. So I could put it down here. And I said, head found in cabaret in New York City. They also do one-act plays. So that was my kind of advertising. But it was really, and then I became more and more comfortable. We started doing shows. We did a midnight show on Saturdays, and I didn't care because I was writing plays, and we were doing these shows, and it was great.
Those are the most frustrating guys in comedy, the ones that don't care. Dr. Ken Jeong was a doctor. He was a doctor. And he would go and host and fucking murder. And you'd be like, hey, why don't you do this for, he's like, I'm a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. Like I'm curing people from disease. I have a calling in life. And we're like, you're better than all of us. And I think majority of it was he really did not give a fuck.
You don't give a fuck. And so what happened was what I really did was I became skillful at. I mean, and I would go on stage, and all I did all week was rip things out of the newspaper that I wanted to talk about.
It's got to be so frustrating to the other comics who are, because as a young comic, you're following what works, what everyone else is doing. And so there's people mimicking what they see other comics doing, and you're doing your own, which is so explains your journey, but you're doing your own thing that you find funny, which is technically what alternative comedy became.
Yeah.
And you're doing it way before traditional comedy's even established and alternative comedy's even thought of. Janeane Garofalo's fucking 10 at this time.
Yeah. And it's also, that was right from the beginning. There's comedy, okay? There's no alternative to comedy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Steve Martin putting an arrow on his head, that's alternative comedy, you fucks. Yeah. And it's funnier.
I've always said, I think I said it more as an adult now, but because I was there at the beginning of that alternative versus traditional comedy. But like now I look back and I go, oh no, it's just people that make you laugh. It's just people that make, like Janine Garofalo is one of my heroes, and I everything she does, and I would argue when she feels like she bombed the most, those are my favorite sets where I go, are you fucking serious? Like that's everything. I wish I had those references in my head that you casually drop, but like you're right, it's just whatever's funny.
Yeah.
And I think you can disconnect all those things that are funny from the things that just genuinely aren't funny, and those are what I think they were pitting was traditional comics, people emulating the hackiness that they saw and just going, a hooker, stripper, you know, like, and you're like, my dick, and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah. So I get exactly what occurs is that Rick Newman says, come down to catch, because I stopped. I tried to do the clubs early on, okay, and I found that it was I just did. I'm not going to stand in line. At that point. I have my own room, so I'm going to go stand in line.
Yeah,
and partly because I'd been doing it for 10 years, and it was like, no, this is not. You want me to audition in the afternoon? I'll audition. Now, don't tell me I got to stand in the first 5 to get it. It was like, fuck you. So I wasn't going to do it, and I got into you'll like this story. I got into Catch. Before this, I'd arrived in New York. This is about 4 years before 3 years before I have the theater, and with my friends, and I go and I'm broke. I am fuck broke, and I bring 3 of my friends with me. So now, and that costs. So it's a cover and 2 drinks, and I'm paying for my friends because they're actors. They got no money. And there are 15 people in the room, or 20, or 30, maybe 30 or 40. And I had to, do my 7 minutes or whatever the fuck it was, 7 to 10 or 7. And I'm like 5th. That was, and I do it, and I did really well. And I finished up, and I said, my friends had left. Who do I talk to about the audition? And I said, there's nobody to talk to. I said, what do you mean there's nobody? There was nobody here to see what we were doing? No. You're going to have to come back again next week. And stand online? Yeah. Because you really have to, you have to hang out here. And I said, I just came in here and I did a set, and the set was pretty good. And I picked up a chair, and I said, and I threw it across the room. And I said, could somebody find somebody I can, because this was the guy who was the MC, and I can't remember. It may have been, no, I can't remember. And he went, what are you doing? I said, I need to talk to somebody. Picked up another chair. In case you missed my message, who can tell me really what it is I got to do, because I ain't fucking coming back here. And I threw another chair. And then he said, you have to stop that. And I said, yeah, I know I do, because I'm not coming. But I don't really have to, because I'm not coming back. And I threw another chair, and I walked out. I never walked back in.
Really?
Never walked back in until Rick Newman asked me to. And I said, I'm going to tell you this story. This is what happened there. And I said, so if I'm going there, I don't want any bullshit. I don't want any nonsense. I don't give a fuck. I said, you saw me here. I'm very happy here. I said, but I would love to be able to see if I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I went, and I got hooked. It was, that kind of was the beginning of the real hook of it, which was Kevin Meaney, Mario Cantone.
Oh, wow.
Dennis Leary and me. And
holy shit.
And Rosie O'Donnell was the MC, which I will ask God about when I see him. How did that happen? It's the career. Lewis she's very nice, but I don't quite get it. Not as a comedian. She was a good actress.
Yeah.
Of course. So, really good in a league of her own, which I saw again. But it was those. I'm not being sexist. Those 4. I mean, the range from Dennis to me to Mario to Kevin, and it was just great. I mean, and I learned. And what happened was I walked in, and this is where you learn. So I walk in. Now I got material. Now, and I've never. So now I got to figure out how to make this material work.
Yeah.
In outside of my room, you know, how do you? What's? And I'm watching, and Leary is up there. He's doing his smoking bit.
Yeah.
You know, the big one, the cancer one. And I go, and that's my first 3 minutes. And I go, well, you know what? That's gone. That ain't happening again. That's bullshit. What? Look, you're not, I'm not going to top that.
Yeah.
Gone. So, and that was how I learned. And so I went, boom, you know, there's no need to no need to do it again. No need to go anywhere and do it. And I got all of that. I learned all this shit watching all of those guys, you know, Kevin and Mario. I mean, where Kevin would go out, Mario was, you know, where they would go to the edge. And
Mario Cantone, I think he doesn't get the proper props or the flowers that he deserves.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching him at the Boston Comedy Club one night come in and fuck around. And it was just mesmerizing.
It was unbelievable.
Mesmerizing.
And really great. I mean, I would finish sometimes, and he would he wouldn't get, he would not have an introduction, and I would finish up yelling and literally yelling and screaming, and it was about Reagan mostly a lot at that time, and others, but there was other stuff. But I'm screaming, and I would finish, and he'd be at the back of the room. And then he, as Tina Turner, would start singing, "What's Love Got to Do with It?" It was still one of the 5 funniest things I've ever seen in my life, whether following me or not. But the fact that he was following me with it was just brilliant.
Dude, and Kevin Meaney.
Oh, Kevin Meaney.
There's so many, you know, it's, I think with the amount of stand-up I've seen in my life live, that when you see some of these comics, and this is not an old man shading young comics, but when you see some comics performing, so many of them are afraid to get off that path that's working that you forget there were people creating their own path. Today, Kevin, but when Kevin Meaney was doing what he was doing, no one was like that. And it was unfollowable. I mean, he was just fucking incredible.
He did.
Come on in.
Oh.
How you doing?
Wow. I thought it was another act. I thought, wow.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
And I wonder if that dog can open for me tonight.
See if you can jerk him off. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. A common misconception about relationships is that they have to be easy to be right. Sometimes the best ones happen when both people put in the work to make them great. Therapy can be a perfect place to work through the challenges you face in all your relationships, whether they be with friends, people you work with, or significant others, or anyone, or your daughters. Man, I've said this on podcasts numerous times. I did not parent well. I did not parented like my dad, and I had challenges with Georgia, mostly with Georgia, and I took those challenges to therapy. I'll be very candid about them. I thought raising your voice was how you parented. I didn't understand that I was creating a threshold with which she knew this is where you could go, and I was always going to take it there. So why wouldn't you lie, right? And then I realized if you reason with them and you empathize with them, and this is all stuff I learned in therapy. And by the way, Leanne was there the whole time. She was watching, and she's like, I didn't know what to do. I had a therapist, someone on the outside looking in, telling me what to do. And it changed the relationship with my daughter. I'm telling you right now, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Become your soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bert today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bert.
But Kevin, I mean, people should, not tough. You go to YouTube, Kevin Meaney, We Are the World. Okay, it's like unbelievable. So now I'm there. Now I've known Kevin 6 months or 8 months have been working, and they have.
Yeah.
And now I know the score and I get it, and tonight they're coming in to see, they're coming in to look at Kevin for Uncle Buck. So he's got it's essentially, he's doing time. Yeah. All of the fuckers from whatever channel, CBS or NBC, they all show up and he goes on stage and it would drive me nuts when those guys are in the room because, I'd been through it a couple of times. I was not, it's like, we can make real money. We make money doing this. But he gets up and kill, and he's got 3 minutes, and then he does We Are the World. And I'd seen him do it 10, 15, 20 times. And now it's like unbelievable. All of a sudden, it is the best he's ever been. And I'm like, good God, that's just, it's in front of them, he had really, that's the thing. It's not only learning the chops, it's being able to bring the chops when somebody expects you to show them. And he finishes and he is destroyed, utterly destroyed. The room has gone berserk.
Yeah.
And I have seen that occur maybe 5 times in my life where it was just like somebody had blown, basically thrown a bomb in the room.
Yeah.
So then they just go, and ladies and gentlemen, Louis Black. So this is one of my, I feel like one of my great stage moments. I would come on stage. They were all still kind of talking and stuff. And I said, look, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go over here and sit down. And what you're going to do is going to talk about the genius that you just saw. Because that's what you're talking about. And you should talk about it. Because you're rarely going to see anything like that. That was just unbelievable. And I'm not going to fucking try to top that. Because I can't. Got it? So when you seem to be getting a little bored, I'll come back on stage. So how do you like that? And I sat down for 5 minutes till I got the room back. You have to.
Oh, that's fucking great.
You have to, and you got to give props.
Yeah. Oh.
And that's what I learned from theater.
Oh,
more than I learned it from stand-up. Of like, you can take the moment, give him the moment. He just, it's that's what you do.
God. That's fucking crazy. And how long were you in the trenches before you feel like you popped?
Well, the good news was that what helped me pop a little was the fact that I had become I was kind of I'd become a headliner quickly. Mm-hmm. So I was only a middle act about a third of the time. That was on the upside. Maybe less, even a quarter of the time. I mostly was headlining. But then again, nobody knew who the fuck I was. And my agent was not a great agent. It was good and really solid and a sweetheart, but I wasn't getting out enough and stuff. But I was, it grew. And I would say by 96, 97. So it was about 10 years. It took about 10 years.
Wow. And that's a different 10 years than these kids are doing now.
Yeah.
I mean that respectfully, but like I hear comics doing stand-up 10 years. 10 years then was like legit 10 years every night, 5 shows a night.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Well, I was doing that thing that, it was great because you could, I was working weekends in, if I didn't work on the road, the great thing was by not working on the road, I worked in New York on weekends, and I would do Catch, and then I go from Catch to Dangerfields. I go from Dangerfields to stand-up New York, and then I'd go from there back to Catch, and then down to the Comedy Cellar. I could do 6 shows, and it was all about how many shows could I do, and make enough for the weekend, and it was also Did you ever play Dangerfields? I think
Never played Dangerfields. When I moved to New York is when Catch closed. That's where I met Dave Attell. The night that Catch closed.
Wow.
I sat next to Dave Attell. There was a comic, Kevin Brennan.
Oh,
my
he's
uncle.
Funny.
He was a brilliant comedian. My uncle had gone to high school with him. And so my uncle said, if you need one connection, I can help you with Kevin Brennan. And in typical Kevin Brennan fashion, I said, hey, my name's Bert. I'm Dave Hobson's uncle or cousin, nephew. And I would love any advice I could get about getting into stand-up or anything you could tell me. And he goes, I'll take care of you. Sit down next to this guy. He'll tell you everything he needs to know. And he sat me next to Attell. And I said, hi, I'm Bert. If there's anything... And he goes, they're closing this club. Get out now. He goes, quit now. I said, really? He goes, it gets worse. It gets way worse. It's never going to get good. And I was like, oh, shit. I just got here. And then I had, that was David Tell was like one of the first people I met. And then Jim Norton was the first person to ever compliment me on a joke. Like the first time you ever get like hey, that's good, man. You should do this. And I was like, oh my God, like he's treating me like a real comic. And, but that whole time when I moved there in 97 was so different. I mean, it was so fucking different because you really did have this group of like Lower East Side comics that were putting on their own shows, doing their own thing, like Stella and the guys from the state, but bigger, Janine and Mark and so many of them doing stuff. And then Mark would teeter-totter and go back to like the Cellar, but he would do like these Luna and different shows. And I was eating it up. Everything I saw was like, I mean, really, I don't think I've ever been that curious about life to this day where I just was devouring every and any content. I started reading books. I've never been a book reader, but I sat next to Janine Garofalo at a bar, and she had referenced, what's that Dust Bowl book? About the Dust Bowl, fucking. Steinbeck, Grapes of Wrath.
Grapes of Wrath.
She referenced Grapes of Wrath, and I was like, huh. She referenced the unbearable lightness of being in conversation that I'm just listening to, and I didn't know what they were, and you didn't have Google on your phone then, so I didn't know what they were. I knew they were books, and so I went to the Barnes & Noble on Astor Place, and I ended up getting a job there. And I was like, I'll work here and I'm going to read everything that I hear people talk about. And I'm not a good reader. I'm dyslexic and it takes me forever to read a fucking book.
That's brutal.
I still have a hard time reading out loud. But I read all these books and then I was like, as I read them, I was like, how come they're not connecting the way they do with Janine? Like, why am I not finding moments where I feel like fucking Edward Holden or whatever the guy from Catcher in the Rye is? Like, how come I'm not just reading them and I go, that's a cool dude, but it's not me. And it was really interesting. It was that period of my life. And that's when I first saw you, first saw Tell, first saw Hedberg, first saw Norton. I mean, Jim Norton is to this day such a talented fucking guy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is that you were on the bang bus, the stripper bus. The teenage. Yeah. Oh, I like that because that's part of like your story that I don't know. I only know you as the guy from like theaters, specials, The Daily Show. Like that was my whole frame of reference. And then when I heard like you did Opie and Anthony, I was like, shut the fuck up. Where are those episodes?
No, that was fun because I would go after Anthony and I had.
Oh, yeah.
It was psychotic.
Really?
We would scream at each other. Just scream. You are out of your mind. You are so out of your mind. Well, no. We would just go tooth and nail.
Yeah.
And then shake. And it was great because we didn't really take it personally at all. We just loved we both wanted to fight, argue, and we did. It was really incredible. And because I'd be talking to Opie, and then all of a sudden he'd pipe in. I'd say, "What is the matter with you? What is possibly the matter with you, Anthony? It was great. And that voyer bus was phenomenal. The teenage voyer bus.
What was that? You guys had, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the seed that almost gets them kicked off the air.
Yeah.
Because they started doing these epic stunts, and they had you and Jim on a glass bus with strippers.
Yeah, it was teenage. It was teenage. Apparently, it was teenage girls. It was 18 and over, and it was this bus that was going around the country, and the whole idea behind the bus was we're gonna go around and be topless, and this is to show our defense of the First Amendment. Really? This is how I'm defending the First Amendment is by these girls exposing themselves. Well, that's an interesting look. Seriously, I was like, I said it would be like, I used to have a joke about it. It would be like yelling, it's like, it'd be like running around on the bus and yelling fire inside the bus. I mean, what are you talking about? We're going to end up with the First Amendment defendant. So it was me and him. There was one of the producers who came along with us, and I grabbed a friend of mine who ran the Mark Taper Theater out in Los Angeles for the past 10 years. A friend of mine, Michael Ritchie, he gets on the bus. And now we're all on the bus, and we just go through town, and it was extraordinary because it was Christmas. So it's like now. It was about now. And we drive through, and because they asked, do you want to get on the bus? And I was like, why would I want to sit here with you idiots? So this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And we get on it, and we're going through the town, and we're whipping. I mean, it's not a problem, and they've got us moving, and it's exceptional. And and people are laughing, and nobody seems offended. None of that at all. The old ladies are looking up and laughing. There were like 4 girls on the bus, and they're all, as men are ogling them outside, they're saying, what an asshole, what a shithead. It was like phenomenal. I just like the whole thing. And we got to we dropped my friend Michael Ritchie off, so that saved his ass. Yeah. 2 blocks before, we're literally a block from the studio, and they pull us over and arrest us for disruption and whatever they wanted to call it, because Rudy Giuliani was the mayor at the time. So that was it for me and him. So, boy, look at what an asshole he is. Yeah, well, he was an asshole. He's taken us into, because it's not against the law to be topless in New York for a woman. So the whole thing was stupid. And what they were trying to do, really in the end, was to have us turn on the cops, because they were taking us into a room, and they sent in when they have the cop, the internal affairs. Yeah. They show up to talk to us. And did any of these police, what is that? You kidding me? I said, you know what the police did? They got us through the city. And you're lucky they listened to the show, because they didn't have to do that. And what they did was a favor to the city, and it was a favor to do it, and nobody was upset. So go bother somebody else, because they didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. And
you guys getting arrested made it even such a bigger event that it was like epic, fucking epic. And then the St. Pat's happened stuff. And then who I forget who was the comic. I won't say his name. I know it. I remember Paul Michael Mercurio.
Yes.
He was like, oh, get arrested. That's the thing. Yeah. And then he got arrested, and that fucked everything.
Yeah, it did.
I think it's better. I mean, look, every path you take is the right path, but I loved that they went to SiriusXM. I loved them on SiriusXM. I was a diehard fucking fan of that show.
Well, it was great for a long time, and it was fun. And we ended up, it was just to sit with Jim Norton. Turns to we have like the captain of the police force, or the captain of the place that they're holding us at. Jim says, I'll never forget. He goes, I know we're going to go, they're going to put us in the tombs and all that, but not a fun place where you walk down and it says, be sure and wash your hands as much as possible. You could get tuberculosis here. I mean, it was like, okay, that's really that's terrific.
What jail was this?
The Tombs, it's called.
Oh my God.
It's where you go before, and then they go to there, and then if they find you guilty, then they send you to Rikers. So I'm sitting there with Jim, and Jim's going, so he's going, well, at least, it's Lewis and I, and, we'll be able to have each other's back. And this guy looked at Jim Norton. He said, what? He said, well, no. They will take you, if you think you're, protecting his back, they will take you off his back and throw you across. No, don't think about how you're going to really help each other out. Just be quiet and stay as far away.
We'll have each other's back.
It was like me and Jim. The two last, and we'd become fairly, friends. We'd become fairly good friends because we'd done this film together where we played, this comedy duo, and it was it was really, so we had already kind of bonded.
I think I saw
and
that.
I can't think of the name of it. It was, what was it? Huh? Side Splitters. Splitters. Yeah, Adam Dubin directed it. And it was, and Jim and I play like this Abbott and Costello thing. And there's a couple of, it's the first time I don't generally laugh out loud myself.
Yeah.
But Norton and I together doing kind of a rendition of Who's on First in a dirty fashion was just makes me laugh every time I see it. And he and I had become, so we were in there for 24 hours.
24 hours in the Tombs?
Yeah.
What was it like?
Horrible.
Really?
We went, they put us, at least they took us away from the general population and gave us the Al Sharpton suite, as they called it. And that was where Sharpton generally was put. And so we had our own private cell, but it was like four of us in there. Now my brain is going, but when the cops had gotten us, I went, what if these girls are not 18? I could be, this could be like,
this could be bad.
This could be really bad. And luckily they were all, and they threw it out. And if you go to The Daily Show, I did a thing on The Daily Show about it.
Yeah.
The day I came out of, or the night I came out of, because we just made it out before we would have been in for the whole weekend.
Oh,
and that would have been horrifying. And so we just got out in the nick of time, and the Daily Show had sent some people down to film me. And I had called everybody to try to get out.
Really?
Every chit that I had, every card that I could throw, nothing. And the reason that they busted us was because they said we were on the route that Bill Clinton was coming on. Really? So Mr. Blowjob
he would have loved that route.
I know.
That's right up his alley.
So that was unbelievable.
Oh, man, that's fucking wild. That's crazy. That I remember that, but I didn't know about the Tombs. That would be fucking terrifying.
It was terrifying. And it was also hard. And it was also you kind of going, so your brain, if you got a brain, is going, why would anybody, after you get caught for something, want to come back here?
Yeah.
I'm in there for 3 hours. They give you a bologna sandwich. Everything about it is horrible. A bologna sandwich with just, some mustard on it and bad white bread. I was just, the whole thing was, and I can still visualize it in my head.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Now are you really doing your last tour?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How long's the tour going to be?
It goes, I am going to basically end up, if all goes the way it should, December, January of next year. I've got a year left.
And then how hard are you pushing this tour? Are you going to be like out for like Wednesday to Sunday, or are you doing weekends?
I'm going to do, depending on what I've got. I mean, the next round is starting in January, and we we go to the end of April, and it's pretty solid for through it. 3-4 shows a week.
And when you say last tour, does that mean like we will never see you in theaters again?
Oh no, but I'm not gonna tour.
You're not gonna go out.
You're gonna call me and say, I'd like to give you $75,000 to join us on stage. And I will go, let me talk to my...
I will definitely say that.
No, but I will do shows from time to time. You know, if there's something strikes me, and I've got that Rantcast I do, I'd like to do that occasionally. So, what I would like to do is like be in a place, and if you were available, they'd get 4 people to read the rants, so that I would do a rant and then hand it to other, and we'd do like an hour and 15 minutes of rants.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And then let you guys comment on what you're reading, and the same way that I do, and that's really what. And I'm going to write, and I want to. I want to write, and then I want to try to pitch this travel show, which just, as I keep saying, I want to pitch it so that they can say no, so I'll feel like I'm in the business.
I can't imagine. Like I had a moment when I was 44 where I was in a car driving back from radio. I'd been drinking on radio, and I saw this dude smoking a cigarette outside his convenience store. I'm in the car with the manager of the club. And he just goes, so how much longer do you think you can do this? And I was like, I never really put like a timeline on it.
Yeah.
And I just never thought, I still have never thought about a life after stand-up. But I keep thinking, I was talking to my dad. My dad is just turned 76. And he said, I don't want to retire. Because I don't know. He goes, I still like it, but like, I wish I could just cut it back. I feel like that sounds like what you're doing. You got one last real push it tour, which is going to be so fucking fun.
Yeah.
Because that's the dessert. That's the one where you go, oh, no more bus stops, no more truck stops. Fuck, it's snowing shit. We're stuck in the snow. Like those are almost the fun parts. When you're in the thick of it, you can't really appreciate as much. Yeah. But one last big fucking tour. Do you know who you're bringing with you? You bringing like your favorite people with you?
It's just me and the opener. Am I supposed to bring people?
I do.
I know you do. I know you're desperate for affection. Oh God, that's why I like you. I can say that. There are not a lot of people I can say that to who just keep laughing as opposed to and then laugh.
Oh, I am desperate for affection. I am desperate. My wife thinks I'm like one of our dogs because if she touches me, I lean into it. Oh, I so badly want to do one of your plays off Broadway. Like if you have a play about a dude who drinks too much, I was saying today, I was like, I was talking to my wife, and she's like, so I always do that before an interview, and she goes, you know what we need to do? See if Lewis has got a good play for you. Let's put it off Broadway. Let's do a play. Let's do one run in the winter in New York. We'll move to New York. Girls are going to college. We'll move to New York, and we'll run a play. Lewis will direct it, and then you can star in it. That would be great. That's what I want to do. And I was like, fuck yeah, that would be awesome. But then I'm sure I would drive you fucking through the wall.
No, I'd get you. I wouldn't direct it. Kidding me? No, but I have people who would. It'd be great. There's a play that I'd hand you that's 30 minutes long that you would.
That's in my memorization zone.
Well, it is. But you'd go nuts over it. It reads as if I wrote it. It's 40 years old, and it reads like I wrote it yesterday. It's about 2 guys. It's called The Deal. It's the best thing I've ever written by far. And it's 2 guys who are making a deal. And the building is in a building that's so high, birds suffocate at that height. And they're just in a room. There's no set. They're just sitting in chairs with a coffee table, and they're making a deal. You never know what the deal's about.
Really?
You never know. They're one-upping each other. And
me and Tom would be great. As soon as you said that, that's our podcast. Me one-upping him.
Yeah. And then and one of the guys the guy has one guy's got a set of balls that he got that he purchased from some kid, and they're gigantic. And the other guy's got. He goes, "That's nothing." He said, "Mine are gold plated." So it's stuff where it's just sick.
Oh, that would be fucking great.
Yeah,
we should do that.
And it ends with the what's really great about, spoiler alert, that nobody's going to ever pay attention to this except you. So the two guys, you and Tom, the thing ends with them making the deal, and they're grabbing each other's balls, screaming, "It's a deal, it's a deal." And we did it 2 years ago, and it was Mark Lynn Baker, who's a close friend, and a guy named Joe Grafazzi, who if you saw, you would know, who's done 100 films. And the two of them did it, and it was literally like I wrote it yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
And
I can get it to you. It's on the bus.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in. Yeah. That would be fun as fucking shit. That would be fun as fucking shit.
Yeah.
God. Well, I'm going to let you get out of here. Thank you for spending the time with me.
Are you kidding? Thank you. This
Louis,
was great. Well, I mean, I wanted to, it's nice since I met you out there. This is really a pleasure.
We do, when we do Fully Loaded, we set up all the comics that we know that party and we have fun with, and that are, we get them for 2 weeks, and then we always go through and we do like a dream, like a wish list of my heroes, like who I want to work with, like who I want to watch. I want the girls to watch. I just want to sometimes meet like you. And when we got you, I got so fucking excited. It made my Vegas trip. And it was like, I spent the whole time backstage just like kept going over to you like, "Hey, is everything okay? Is everything having a good time?"
I was having a great time.
And it's such a joy to sit down and talk with you. I am such a fan. I'm such a fan. I've been since the day I started stand-up in New York, and I went to the Daily Show with Dimitri, and I watched you on that show. I've been blown away. Everything you do is like I said, it's popcorn worthy. It's like really sit back and enjoy it, and I'm just very grateful to know you.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also you should get. I'm going to just tell you but get to the National Comedy Center.
That's right. We talked about that.
Segura is playing there.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, he's going to play there coming up this spring. I was trying to get you. Basically, I don't know if they did it, but I'm trying to get you to go up there to work up there, because
I would love that.
But you'll love this. I mean, look, I watched the tour. I mean, I talk about your need for affection, but you have a feeling about comedy that is huge, and this place, you'll go nuts, because we have never, anyone I've brought there, there's no, you maybe should have. Or they'll say, "Can you get this guy's stuff, or can you get her stuff, or what do you plan?" Yeah. It's extraordinary. And it's all it's 75, 80% interactive.
Oh, I got to do it.
Yeah, you'll go nuts.
I can't wait.
I helped them, and I'm really proud of being involved with them for so long. And this is what we're setting out to do. And then I went to see what they were doing, and then I finally really spent time. Like, I saw what they initially did, and after what they initially did, they took it up 10 notches.
Really.
It's just, and then plus all around, you'll love this, is it's where Lucille Ball was raised. So they've got all the Lucy stuff. So there's a whole kind of like what the studio, a replication of the studio they worked in, the history of how they went from this to Desilu to da-da-da-da, everything.
Oh, that shit fascinates me. Oh, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in. I'm going to make sure it happens.
Yeah, and if you ever go there, let me know, and I'll come on up.
Okay.
Done deal.
Done deal.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.